Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Miriam Moreno, and I am going to be recording this year's Summer Meals Site Supervisor training. Along on staff with me for this program are also Molly Evian and Nikki Hanna. Again, my name is Miriam Moreno. I am the Volunteer Nutrition Programs Coordinator here at SHARE, and I am the main contact for this program. Welcome to everybody here. Thank you all so much for watching this training and for um, being part of our program this year. As you can see here on this slide, we've got quite a few wonderful partners who are joining us this summer, and I'm sure we will have more join us as we get further closer to the summer. So here today is our agenda. We're first going to go over contact information and an overview of the program. We're also going to go over what it means to be an open meal site, the rules, meal delivery, meal pattern requirements, and meal service. We're also going to talk about how you request meals, as well as how you complete the daily meal count form. And then we're going to talk about what the satellite meal delivery receipt is. Then we're going to get into some other information that we need to know for state regulations, such as food safety, food allergies, civil rights requirements, visitors, and monitoring. Finally, we're going to finish up with just some information about volunteers and surveys, and then materials and supplies. So for contact information, again, my name is Miriam Moreno and I'm the program coordinator. So generally we would have you contact me for just general program support or inquiries. I work normal business hours, so Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. My cell phone is listed here. It is 360-553-8064. And then my email is there as well. So as many of you know who are returning site supervisors, you will know that the number that you text to text in your meal count for the following day, that is going to be our Summer Meals Kitchen cell phone. So we'll go over a little bit more what it means to text in your meal counts and things like that. But that cell phone number is going to be 360-605-6258. And the main person who's going to be answering those texts will be our Summer Meals assistant. We have not yet hired for that position, but we are in the process of doing that. I will send out an email with that announcement once we know who that individual is going to be. And that way you will know who you are texting on the other side of that phone. And then returning again this year, we have our kitchen coordinator, Jen. So she will be around as well, but usually she's not contactable over the cell phone unless our summer meals assistant is out of the office. I would ask that you please pause this recording and enter this contact information into your phone before proceeding. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go into the Summer Meals overview. So Summer Meals is a federally funded, state-administered program that reimburses providers who serve free, healthy meals to children and teens while school is not in session. The goal of the program is to give all children 18 and under access to nutritious meals in low-income areas while they do not have access to free or reduced school meals. Thank you so much for including Summer Meals as part of your programs this summer. As the program sponsor, SHARE manages the training, budget, meal preparation, site monitoring, compliance, meal counting, and claims. As a meal site, the site supervisors are responsible for meal service, record keeping, as well as your own individual programs. Food is incredibly important for a developing teen or child, as I'm sure many of us are aware, and yet almost 19,000 children in Clark County are considered food insecure, meaning that they don't know when or where their next meal is coming from. Research shows that receiving free or reduced price meals reduces food insecurity, obesity rates, and poor health in children. Last year, through the Summer Meals program, we were able to serve over 12,000 meals to children in our community. Thank you all so much for making this happen. We know that the program has a lot of rules and can be a lot of work, but it's worth it if we are able to get meals out into the hands of the kiddos in our community. This year, we estimate to serve approximately 15,000 or more meals through your sites and programs. Again, thank you so much. So, what it means to be an open meal site. So, your program will be an open meal site for the USDA Summer Food Service Program, or SFSP, supported by SHARE. This means that any child 18 years and younger are welcome to have a meal. Program adults may have a meal after all children have been served. Non-program adults may be served after all the children are served if there are enough lunches. However, we trust your judgment. If there is someone who is by your site and would not fall into one of these categories, um, if they are very hungry and desperate for food, and you have enough food for all of the children who are at your site, please go ahead and feed them. As an open summer meals site, everyone is welcome. That means that any child 18 and under has access to the SAC lunches provided to you. They do not need to live at the site if you are at, say, an apartment complex. They do not need to be enrolled in the program at the site. If you're running a camp or something like that, they don't need to be enrolled in that. They also don't need to participate in the activities on site, as well as they don't need to provide any proof of citizenship, age, or income level to receive a meal. You may not ask that children not enrolled in the site's activities or programs wait to be served last. If you need more meals with at least 20 minutes to go in your meal service time, please text the Summer Meals Kitchen phone. Discrimination against a child or any individual on site based on age, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, religious beliefs, disability, pregnancy, or veteran status will not be tolerated under any circumstance. During the publicly posted meal service time, religious activities are prohibited. All right, we're going to get into some of the rules. At least one site supervisor must supervise the entire meal service period. Site supervisors must complete this training that you're currently doing. So if you're here, you're in a good spot. We recommend that each site has 2 or more trained site supervisors. That is just so that if you if you only have one site supervisor and that person has to be out sick, then you would not be allowed to serve meals that day. So we recommend having 2 or more so that coverage is always guaranteed. In addition, at least one site must have their Washington State Food Workers card, and they must be on site during the entire meal service period. Generally, we say that the person who completes this training should probably also be the person with their Food Workers card. That way, you kind of cover both of these things with 1 or 2 people. However, we definitely recommend that any staff or volunteers who are going to be touching the food have their Food Worker card. Once you receive that Food Worker card, we ask that you scan and email, or just email me the digital copy. And yeah, scan that and email that to me. And then please keep 1 copy in your site binder in case the Clark County Public Health Department stops by. All right, some more rules. Meals must be consumed on site, which means not taken home or away. We are okay if, say, you have kiddos who say it's hot outside and they pull up in their mom's minivan. They are allowed to sit in the car and eat. That's okay, so that they're like in the air conditioning. However, for instance, if you're at an apartment complex and they want to come get a meal and go back to their apartment, unfortunately, they would not be able to do that because we need to make sure that the children are the ones consuming the meals. And then that kind of goes along with number 4, where children must be present to get a meal. So even if a mom shows up and she says, hey, I have 2 kids in the car and I have 4 more at home, unfortunately, we need to be able to verify, again, that children are the ones receiving the meals. We will get into a little bit more about what it means for a program or non-program adult to receive a meal as well. But for children, they need to be present in order to receive a meal. All right, final few rules. Again, kind of what I just mentioned, program adults and non-program adults may eat after all children have been served. Again, we trust your judgment. If there is someone who is over 18 and they are very hungry and desperate for food and you have enough for the children at your site, please go ahead and feed them. Number 6, all children ages 18 and under are welcome. And 7, there is no verification or questioning of eligibility, need, income, or citizenship allowed or tolerated at open meal sites. Moving on to meal delivery. So meal delivery and leftover pickup. We prepare the meals at a central kitchen. This year it is at Hudson's Bay High School. And then we have volunteers, or it may be volunteers from your own site, who will come pick up the meals from Hudson's Bay and deliver them to your sites. So that's a little bit more about how like the process works of getting the meals from us to you. Meals will be delivered between 10:30 a.m. and noon, depending on your meal time. Ideally, it's going to be 15 to 20 minutes before your meal service starts. That way you have time to check through the meals, count them, temp them, things like that. So if you have a meal time that starts at noon, you're not going to get meals at 10:30. You're probably going to get meals at about 11:40, 11:45. So I understand that this time frame is quite large, but it is just kind of showing. So for instance, if you have a meal time that starts at 11, then you might get your meals as early as 10:30. But for the most part, it's going to be 15 to 20 minutes before your meal service begins. We ask that you please be ready for your volunteer delivery driver to arrive and help one another lift the coolers and hot bags out of the car and to the meal service site. So you might notice that usually in the past, we've always just said coolers. So this year we are trying out a few hot entree items. So we ask that once you receive the menu and kind of look over everything, you kind of make note of the days that you may need to get coolers and hot bags. Because it won't be the whole meal that is hot, it'll just be the entree, but those will be in hot holding bags. And so just, I'm sure some of you caught that, but that is kind of an explanation of why it says coolers/hot bags. Next, volunteer delivery drivers will do their best to be on time and to go to the correct location. Share will put together delivery instruction sheets for your site with your input. So if you are at an apartment complex and maybe the area that you're in is like a little park or playground within the apartment complex, then those would be details that we would need to know so that we can tell the delivery drivers, hey, so you're not going to go to the main office. You're going to go, around building B, and that's where the park is, or something like that. So again, with your input, we'll put those sheets together and that will make delivery as smooth as possible. We ask that you please be understanding and patient if something unexpected comes up, especially during the first few days of your meal delivery. Volunteers will either stay for the duration of meal service or return after meal service time ends to collect the coolers and hot bags, as well as the leftover food inside. We ask that you please identify and then throw away any food that has been stored outside of the coolers or hot bags, because at that point it wouldn't have been held at a safe temperature. But we ask that if you find any that you're like, I don't know how long this corn dog's been sitting here, just go ahead and throw it away. We don't need that sent back to the kitchen. However, any food that is stored inside the coolers and the hot bags for the duration of your meal service time would be fine to send back to us at the main kitchen. And finally, we ask that you please remember to thank your delivery driver. So with your meal delivery, taped to either your cooler or your hot bags, possibly both, will be this sheet, which is called a satellite meal delivery receipt. We ask that you take note of these sheets. So on these sheets, there are a few things that you're going to need to fill out. So on the left side here, it's a little bit blurry, but on the left side here, you can see it says share, and that is where it says like vendor. And then on the right-hand side, it says like site name. So that is going to be, I think this one says Awesome Apartments. So that will be your site name. And then back to the left side, we are going to write down how many hot or how many meals we sent you. So we're not going to write down how many cold meals plus hot entrees. We like if there were 25 cold bags and 25 corn dogs, we're just going to say that there's 25 meals because that entree is part of that meal. So just again, something that's a little bit new this year that we're still working on explaining and making sure that we understand all the details of. So it's going to say the total number of meals that have been sent. It's going to say the temperature that they were when they left the kitchen. Um, and I believe at this time, our plan is to put a satellite meal delivery receipt on the cooler and then one also on the hot bag. So the temperatures there would be a little bit different. So if it's cold items, the temperature is going to be written for the cold items. And if it's the hot items, then the temperature would be written for the hot items. So you may have two different receipts that you need to fill out on a given day. One might say like 38 degrees. And so then you're going to temp the cold food and see where it's sitting, if it's around that 38 or kind of where it's at. And then the one on the hot food might say like 188. So then you're going to want to temp the hot food and make sure that it is still staying in that hot food zone. Finally, we are just going to sign and then date. So then on the right-hand side, you are also going to write the number of meals you received, the temperature that the meals were when you received them, and then you're also going to sign and date. So we ask that you just double check all of these items. So basically, you're going to have to fill out 4 items. You're just going to have to fill out the number, the temp, sign your name, and then the date. So as long as meals are served within 2 hours since leaving the kitchen, which it will be for all of your sites, there's none of our sites that are far enough away from Hudson's Bay that this would be really an issue. As long as the sites are served within 2 meals since leaving the kitchen, it's okay if they are a few degrees under or over, sorry. It's okay if they are a few degrees over 41 for cold items or under 140 degrees for hot items. Okay, moving on to meal pattern requirements. So in the SFSP, which is that summer food service program, we are following the lunch/dinner pattern, which requires 1 serving of protein, 1 serving of grain, 1 serving of fruit and or vegetable, and then 1 cup of milk. So all components must be included in the sack lunch or in the sack lunch plus the hot entree, or it cannot be counted if served. If you get a meal without a component, please set it aside and do not serve it. Text or leave a note for the kitchen. If you do not serve this meal due to it being the last one available, please mark it as disallowed. So your site will be serving a sack meal that must be consumed on site. Sack meals will be prepared at Hudson's Bay High School and delivered to your site in coolers or hot bags. Please confirm that each child's meal is complete and that there is no food missing or spoiled. If you have leftovers, please leave them in the coolers and hot bags, and those will be brought back to our central kitchen. With this, the child must take the entire meal, including the milk, for it to be counted. So they must receive the entire meal when you hand it to them. So even if you hand it to them and they say, I don't want the milk, can you take the milk out for me? We don't allow that. However, if you hand them the whole meal, they say, I don't want this milk, and they either give it back to you or throw it away, then that meal would still count. However, we want to make sure that when we are doing the distributing, the entire meal is being placed in the hands of the child. All right, some more about meal service. All meals must be served during your designated meal service time. That is the time that you or your site lead agreed to in the memo of understanding. Your site serving time can be found on the cover or in the front pocket of your site binder. If a child is served at the very end of meal service, their meal still counts if they stay on site to eat even after service has ended. If a meal is served outside of your designated time, it must be counted as disallowed. If you have children regularly arriving late, let's talk about extending your meal service time. You can change your meal service time if you find that the original time frame needs to be extended or shortened. Please contact me at my phone number here to get it approved by the state. After the change is approved by the state, then we can make the change on site. So even if on a Monday you text me and say, hey, we need to change our meal service time. We had it from 12 to 1, but I think we need it from 12 to 12:30. You cannot shut down the site at 12:30 until we get state approval. So even if that takes until Wednesday, then if we get approval on Wednesday morning before meal service time, then Wednesday would be the first day that you'd be able to make that change. All right, some more about meal service. This is going to go into a little bit about the record keeping. So we have a form called a daily meal count form. On this form, we are going to have you record the time that the coolers or hot bags arrive to your site. We're going to have you count meals at point of service to ensure accuracy. So when you hand the kiddo a meal, tally the corresponding number with a line. So we have a couple of different categories on this sheet. We have first meals and second meals. So these are all the meals that are served to children ages 18 and under. We have program adults, which are food preparation staff and or site staff and volunteers. So anybody associated with your site itself. However, if you have a staff or a volunteer who is 18 years old or younger, that can count as a first or second meal because they would technically count as a child in this case. Since the program covers people who are 18 and under, even if you have a staff on site, they can get a free meal. And then finally, we have our non-program adults. So these are any other adults served. So that might be a parent, a guardian, a sibling who is older than 18, a nanny, anyone like that. Finally, at the end, you will tally your leftovers. So if you have meals left at the end of the service time, again, we ask that you please send them back to the central kitchen in the cooler or the hot bag. Okay, going into the daily meal count form just a little bit more. So I've mentioned a couple times disallowed meals. So there are 3 different ways that meals can become disallowed, which means that we are not able to be reimbursed for them. So way number 1 is if meals are served outside of the meal service time. 2, if a meal is missing a component and cannot be completed on site and is served. So even if you have a meal that's missing an apple, you set it aside, you don't end up serving it, you don't need to count it as a disallowed because you didn't serve it. But if you have a meal that's missing an apple and it's your very last meal and a kiddo comes up and is like, hey, can I have a meal? You can still give them that meal. It just can't be counted. It just needs to be marked as disallowed. Finally, if a meal is taken to be consumed off-site, that would be the other way that a meal is disallowed. If you have to disallow a meal that you already counted, we ask that you please circle the meal's number on the meal count form. And I will have some physical or some visual examples later in this slideshow. So I will go through all of this again when we're looking at the visual example as well. We ask that you please contact me if you have any questions or having issues at your site. It is better to ask than to assume. Okay, so now we're going to talk about your meal count and how to request the next day's meals. So by 2 p.m. or earlier, we ask that you call or text the kitchen phone. So not me, not Miriam, but we ask that you text or call the kitchen phone number with your meal count for the following day. The text should include your site name and the number of meals that you will need. Your site binder cover or right inside that first pocket will have contact information for the kitchen, but the phone number is also on this slide and it was at the beginning of the presentation as well. So we ask that if you still haven't put this number in your phone, that you pause here and put this number in your phone, please. We do ask that you please be mindful of the number of leftovers that you send back to the kitchen and do not order. However, also be mindful that extra community members may show up, so order a couple extra each day. So for example, say you're on a Thursday, all week long you've had 25 people coming to your site or 25 kiddos coming to your site, and you've been ordering 30. So you've been sending 5 leftovers back every single day. We would ask that you probably still just continue to order 30, because just in case some community members show up on the next day and all of a sudden you have to serve 26 meals or 28 meals, that way you don't order 25 and then you're short meals. Again, if you need to order more meals and you have at least 20 minutes left in your meal service time, you can let us know and we will bring you extra meals if we are available. However, for the most part, we just recommend ordering just a couple extra each day. That way, it'll account for the ones that you know are going to come, but then also maybe some people who just might show up. All right, now we're going to go into the daily meal count form here. So this is an example of a correct daily meal count form. As you can see here, the time the meals arrive is recorded. That is up here, right underneath the name. So you've got the name and the date, and then you've got the time that the meals arrived. Distributed meals are tallied and totaled correctly. So as you can see here, we've got, I believe, 22 meals that have been tallied. Disallowed meals are subtracted from first meals to show the total meals to claim. So down here, we did mark 22 meals because that is how many meals were given out. However, these 2 that are circled were meals that ended up needing to be disallowed. So the 2 is written here because those are the number of meals to disallow. And to get the total meals to claim, we're going to take the total meals served minus the disallowed meals. So we're going to have 20 as our total here. And then they did their math great. So they had 2 seconds, 1 program adult meal, and they got a total of 25 meals. So that is 22 meals served plus 2 seconds plus 1 program adult means that they have 0 leftovers. So it's kind of confusing because this form does go on the right-hand side. It has total meals to claim at the top of this column, and then it goes down. So it feels like you should be using that whole column just to do your math. However, please make sure that you are using first meals served and not total meals to claim when you are calculating your leftovers here at the bottom. And then finally, we ask that you print your name and sign at the bottom. An important note. So a week's worth of daily meal count forms will be sent back to the kitchen with your cooler/hot bags each Friday and or at the end of your program in the plastic folder provided in your site binder. So in your site binder, there will be a plastic folder. For each week, whether your site ends on a Thursday or a Friday, we will put a note on your coolers that say, hey, this week, please send back all of the orange sheets. So we color code the weeks. So the first week is red, the second week is orange, the third week is yellow, et cetera, et cetera. It's rainbow. We love it. So at the end of each week, whether it be week 1 or week 6, we will send out a note that says, hey, please remember to send back all of your pink sheets today. And then we will keep those colored sheets and we will send you back the empty plastic folder on your next service day. If your program only runs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you send it back on a Friday, then you'll get it the following Monday. If your program only lasts for a week, then at the end of that week, you will just send back everything all together. So you'll send back your site binder, you'll send back all of your signage, all that kind of stuff. So if your site only goes for a week or 2, you will just send everything back all together. You don't have to worry about separating out the meal count sheets because we will just get it when we get all of your stuff back. However, most sites go the whole summer, so we don't really have to worry about that for the majority of sites. All right, so I ask now that you take a look at this sheet and for the daily meal count form, and using the materials provided and the example from the previous slide, I ask that you identify all 5 mistakes in Cool School's daily meal count form here. All right, and we're back. So I hope you took the time to pause and kind of look through that sheet and just to see what some of those mistakes were. But here we are going to go over the 5 mistakes. So the first mistake is that the meal delivery time was not recorded. So here underneath the name, that's that first little highlight. So they did not record the time that the meals got to them. Next, number 2, here in the box with all of the little numbers, they didn't cross out numbers to mark how many meals were served. So generally we ask that you just cross them out with a single diagonal line. That just keeps things clean and makes it easy for us to double check your math. But here you can see they use circles, they use lines, they use stars, all that jazz. We don't want that. We just want some lines. And again, if it becomes disallowed, then you can circle it, or you can write a little okay if you disallow it, but then it's not actually disallowed. Anyway, you'll figure it out. Number 3, they counted the disallowed meals incorrectly. So here where it says first meals served, they counted those up right, but then the disallowed meals were not counted correctly. And then they didn't subtract disallowed meals from total first meals served. So then their math was also wrong here underneath the box with all the numbers. This little 17 that's highlighted here, they did not do that math correctly. So 17 minus 2 would be 15. All right, so then they added the lines on the bottom right to total 21 leftovers because they just added these all together. However, the when you add it all together, you're going to get the meal served, but that should not be totaled to give you the leftovers. That should be totaled and then subtracted from the total meals you received to get the leftovers. So they totaled to 21 leftovers, but there should only be 4 meals left over. And then I said they didn't sign the form. That's not right. Oh yeah, no, that is right. Sorry. So yeah, they didn't sign the form. They dated it here at the bottom, but they don't need to date it at the bottom because the date is at the top already. So you just need to print your name and then sign the name. Okay. So why the meal count forms matter. It is extremely important to fill these daily meal count forms out correctly because this is how the program and Share gets reimbursed for meals. Without accurate forms, Share is not allowed to claim meals. Again, if you're ever confused, please call or text me, Miriam, before putting the sheet away blank or with numbers that you aren't sure if they're accurate or not. If you're unsure, just ask. There are no dumb questions when it comes to USDA paperwork. Sometimes they just aren't the most clear and they can be a little tricky. Okay, now we're going to do a little example of the satellite meal delivery receipt. We kind of talked about this a little bit already when we were talking about meal delivery. So again, here is an example of a correctly filled out satellite meal delivery receipt. Again, at the top, we have the vendor name or the sponsor name, which is Share, and then the site name, which in this case is Awesome Apartments. Again, Share on the central kitchen. On the left side, we are going to fill out the number of meals we sent you, the temperature that they were. We're going to sign and we're going to date. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to have you count the numbers of meals you received, the temperature of those meals. We're going to have you sign and date. All right. So once again, we're going to have you take a turn. I ask that you please pause and take a look at this and figure out what some of the mistakes might be on this sheet. Okay, thank you so much for taking a look at that. So here are the 4 mistakes that Awesome Apartments made. And again, you're only writing down 4 things. So if you make 4 mistakes, it's okay. But if you have any questions, again, we would rather you ask than send us a sheet with pretty much all the information wrong. So on the left-hand side, Share, we wrote our name. We did all the things that we needed to do. However, Awesome Apartments did not do so awesome on this. So one, they wrote their items on the wrong meal line. So you'll see here it says breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. We only serve lunch, so your meals will always be on the lunch line. So even if we send you breakfast food for lunch, so say we send you a bagel, it's still going to go on the lunch line because we only serve lunch technically. Here the temp is in Celsius. So while you could do that, it just makes it kind of hard to make sure that the temperature is the same on the central kitchen side and then also on your side. So we ask that you just write it in Fahrenheit so that everything is copacetic. We ask that you please sign, don't just check or print your name. I mean, if your signature is just a printed name, that's okay. But for the most part, we ask that you sign this. And then we ask that you write the correct date. So in this case, the date over here was 7/23/24, which is obviously from last year. But then they wrote 7/23/23. So we just ask that you make sure that the year and date is correct and matches what the central kitchen has written over here on the left-hand side. Okay, now we're going to go into a little bit about food safety. So this year, your meals will be delivered in coolers with ice sheets or in insulated hot bags. Any food held at temperatures above 41 degrees Fahrenheit for cold foods or below 140 degrees Fahrenheit for hot foods for more than 2 hours must be discarded. This is something that we will do when the food returns to the kitchen. So as long as we know what the temperature was when it arrived at your site, and then we'll temp it again when it comes back to the kitchen, that is how we will know that it has been safe for the last hour and a half to 2 hours. We ask that you please use clean gloves for handling meals. Once you have your gloves on, please avoid touching your face, hair, clothes, etc., or dirty surfaces while wearing the gloves to limit the number of glove changes. We will provide your site with gloves and we buy extras, so it's not a big deal. But if you're going through like 4 pairs of gloves like every single meal site, then obviously those are going to run out a little bit faster. We also ask that you wash or sanitize your hands frequently and properly. So if you're going to wash your hands, please wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and water. We ask that you always wash your hands after touching your hair or face or coughing or sneezing. We ask that you use disposable towels while drying hands. And if water and soap isn't available for you to wash your hands, please use hand sanitizer before putting on your gloves. Next, for food safety, all superficial cuts should be covered with a bandage and a disposable glove. Obviously, if the injury is on your arm, you're not going to cover it with a glove. However, if there's anything on your hands, we ask that you cover it with a bandage and a glove. And if it is on any other part of your body, we just ask that you cover it with a bandage so that there is not any threat of cross-contamination or biohazard issues. Next, we ask that you please remove food trash from your site on a daily basis. This is just to reduce pests and bacteria and yucky stuff. And then and again, there must be someone on site during meal service time that has their Washington Food Handlers card. So the only authorized online training program for this summer food program is here at the www.foodworkercard.wa.gov. It costs $10. Other sites that appear to offer a similar card online are not valid in Washington. Okay, we're going to go into food allergies now. So Share will provide alternative meal options for children with allergies if we have the needed documentation from their doctor. This includes what specific food the child is allergic to and what an acceptable substitute would be. Copies of this form is in your site binder, and it was also sent out with the email that this recorded training is attached to. However, we also can work with dietary preferences due to religious beliefs, such as a child does not eat pork. This can be accommodated without documentation as long as the kitchen is informed ahead of time. Please allow us like 2 to 3 days because we only get food deliveries in twice a week. So if you let us know on a Monday, we may not be able to accommodate a pork-free meal until Wednesday or Thursday. So please just be patient with us when it comes to things like that. And again, this would include if someone is pork-free because they are halal or need halal or kosher food, or if they are vegetarian for other reasons, things like that. All right, so civil rights requirements. As a USDA open summer meal site, you may not discriminate against any child because of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. If a meal program participant feels that they have experienced discrimination, please provide them with the discrimination complaint form, which it will be in your site binder. An approved non-discrimination poster, which will look like the one on the right-hand side here. It'll be green and it'll say "And Justice for All" with some text below it. This will be posted at your meal service site. It will be located on trifold boards that we will send out to you. This must be displayed for the duration of the summer lunch program. So if you are a site that is not set up all the time, that's okay. We just ask that before you start giving meals out every day, you put up this trifold board at your distribution table or within the lunch room or the lunch area. So that this "And Justice for All" poster is visible to all participants. It will also contain the name of your site and the times that you serve and some other information that is required for um, making sure that you are being as transparent as possible. Okay, so you will have some visitors to your site. For the most part, it will be due to monitoring, but we may also just come out just to hang out, see how you're doing. So we will visit each site at least once during your summer meal program to complete required monitoring visits. You may also have official visitors from the USDA or the Clark County Health Department who will want to talk to you about food service. Official visitors to the sites are required to carry identification. So if you have any doubts, please ask to see the identification. We do ask that you keep a written record of these visits and report the results of all official visits and review to me, Miriam Moreno, and please email a copy of the report to my email listed here. Surveys. So during the last 3 weeks of your program, or if your program is a short program, then you'll probably just get it at the beginning. Surveys will be delivered with your first meal of the week. Please, please, please encourage your lunch attendees to fill these out and return them. There will also be an online version available. We'll send out some sheets with a little QR code on it so that they can just scan it and complete it while they're sitting there eating lunch. The more surveys that we get back, the better and more successful our program can become. We want the community to be heard, and we want to give them meals they will eat and enjoy. Supplies. Share will provide each site with a site binder, which I've mentioned, a supply crate, and promotional materials and signage. Site binder contents will contain the daily meal count forms, share contact info, as well as, so that will contain my contact info and the kitchen's contact info. It will contain printed food allergy forms, the MOU, which is the memo of understanding for your site. It will contain your site supervisor food worker cards that you have printed out and put into that folder. And then it will also include volunteer sign-in sheets. The supply crate will contain the entire site binder. It will also contain sanitizing spray, hand sanitizer, paper towels, alcohol wipes, thermometers, pens, stickers, magnets. Well, no magnets this year. Stickers, bookmarks, and coloring pages. And then the promotional materials that we send out to you will include an A-frame sign or like a sandwich board. It will include lawn signs, banners, posters, flyers, and then again, stickers. We do have some signage available in English and Spanish. So if you are a site that will need banners in Spanish, please let us know. Again, with the supplies, your site lead or another representative from your site may take home some promotional materials after the optional in-person training on the 10th or 11th of June. Your site lead may also arrange a pickup of all of your site materials with me the week of the 16th of June, which is 1 week before the program begins, or we will just send you all of your supplies on day one of your meal service. With those supplies, we ask that you please help us promote summer meals at your sites and to your communities. We ask that you post flyers, share social media posts and events on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then we also ask that you, if you feel up to it, deliver flyers and stickers to the apartments in your area. I will provide each site with a poster that looks very similar to this, but it will have your site listed with your meal times and meal dates so that you can give out specific information for your location. All right, we're going to do a quick little review. Your program, your program is an open meal site for the USDA Summer Food Service Program, SFSP, supported by SHARE. SAC meals will be prepared at Hudson's Bay High School and delivered to your site in coolers and hot bags. Please keep these coolers and hot bags in the shade to keep food as cold or as warm as possible. Ideally, all food is kept at or below 41 degrees for cold foods or above 140 degrees for hot foods. Children are required to eat their meals on site. No meals may be served outside of your designated serving time. We ask that you please maintain accurate daily meal count forms and satellite meal delivery receipts. Again, if you're confused, please just ask. Each Friday or at the end of your program, we're going to ask that you send the week's worth of daily meal count forms back to the kitchen with your coolers or hot bags in the plastic folder provided in your site binder. Meals will be delivered between 12:30 a.m. Nope, that's not what that says. Between 10:30 a.m. and 12 p.m., depending on your meal time. Again, it's going to be ideally 15 to 20 minutes before meal service time is scheduled to begin. By 2 p.m. or earlier, text or call the kitchen phone with your meal count form for the following day or the following service day. SHARE staff will visit at least once during the summer to monitor your site. All staff and volunteers on site must wear clean gloves when handling meals. Site supervisors must have a current Washington State Food Workers card. Again, please email me your electric copy before the summer meal program starts. Sorry, this is blocked, but basically it just says call or text me if you have any questions. You made these smiling faces possible. Thank you so much.